Every once in a while, an opportunity comes along you just can't say no to. When the Bill Lewis Company approached Mark and Jake Romanack of Fishing 411 to help them develop a new line of walleye crankbaits, it only took about 2 seconds for our heroes to sign on. Fast forward about 2 years and the Precise Walleye Crank, or PWC for short, was born. It takes a lot of time and prototypes to develop a crankbait that consistently catches finicky walleye. In this week's episode, Mark and Jake take the all-new PWC to Lake Erie and mix it up with some Lake Erie giants.
Gonna bury that board, isn't it?
Yeah. There you go, Dad.
Look at there.
That is what we like to see right there. Inside board buried. This is my snap weight line, so a little bit deeper line. If you look at the graph right now, you will literally see
that's a target-rich environment right there.
So you don't really know, are we fishing high in the water, are we fishing low in the water? So what we got is just a lot of lines out right now, spread out, to figure out what it's going to take to put a pile of fish in the boat. But it sure makes you feel
good.
Got
some weight to it
when you look at a target-rich environment like that. Whew. I feel like a pretty decent fish, Dad. Not super heavy, but nice fish.
Well, he's going to get 2 ounces lighter here in a second, because off comes the snap weight. Now it's the human fish.
There we go.
I'll see about landing that while you work on him.
Yeah, I think it's up there. We're just kind of getting set up here. It's a little bumpy this morning. That's Lake Erie for you, though. It's cold, it's windy, but we're catching walleyes. Staying straight below.
Oh, I see him. I see him.
There you go.
Got it.
Nice fish.
Right, that's a start.
Well, that's exactly what we're looking for. That is a very good start and a beautiful Lake Erie walleye. Today we're going to show you to catch a pile of fish in cold water. It's getting near that December time frame, and so many people put their boat away. It is not time to put your boat away. You need to catch a pile of fish just like this one, and we're going to show you how to do that today.
We do have a little one on here. I don't think he's going to be very impressive. But a fish nonetheless. Oh my goodness. More of one of Lake Erie's eater class fish. Oh, he wasn't very well hooked, was he? All right, he's fat enough for the freezer. That's good enough for me. We'll call that a win-win. Off to the live well for you. You know, anytime we come to Lorain, Ohio, we always look up our buddy, Ronnie Rhodes. You talk about a guy that loves crankbaits. I've never seen anybody that loves them more. He's a big stick here on Lake Erie, and he's really been instrumental in helping us get on some fish.
Lake Erie is booming. It's going to be so good. I remember back in the days when you know, you go out and catch 6, 7, 8, 9, 10-pound fish like every single day, and then it died off, and it's just Mother Nature doing what she does. And right now, the next 10, 15 years, Lake Erie is just going to be so much fun. We got a ton of bait out here. We got alewives. We're eating the sheephead. We had a lot of small sheephead that they were feeding on this year, and the smelt population is great. And then obviously the gobies. So you're going to come to Lake Erie, you're going to have a good time for many, many years to come.
About 12 feet back now, Dad. Nice 7.
Okay, I got an eyeball on him. It's good fish. I got
Nice.
Nice, very nice.
That's a good fish right there. They are so thick in the fall, you know, so fat. Look how fat the belly is, how thick the shoulders is on that fish. It's the reason why I love coming out here in the fall. You know, you hear about Lake Erie and guys coming out here to fish in the fall and the spring and the summer. My favorite time to target these fish is this time of year because they are actively feeding. They're putting the feed bag on before winter, and it is a ton of fun, and you get to catch these thick fish like that. I mean, that's a good walleye any time of the year, but in the summer, it's a little bit smaller. In the fall, whew, they got shoulders on them.
Special considerations are provided by Cisco Fishing Systems and Striker brands. Go early, go late, go prepared. Special considerations provided by Fishhawk Electronics and Daiwa Corporation.
We're doing things a little bit differently here today. As you can see, it's kind of a bumpy day, a little sporty out here on the pond. And normally the way we approach crankbait trolling is the same all the time. We put a variety of crankbaits out, we saturate the water column at different depths, and then we let the fish kind of try to tell us which depths seem to be the most productive. But today we've kind of hedged a little bit here because we have a new crankbait on board. It's called the Precise Walleye Crank, and we'll just call it the PWC for short. It's made by Bill Lewis Company, and Jake and I had a hand in developing this bait, and so essentially what we're doing is we're using one crankbait here. It's something we normally would never do, and so far so good. You know, we've got quite a few bites here, and the goal here is to showcase this new lure and show people what it's all about. So it's a minnow diving bait. We'll get you some close-up looks of it here in a second. It's got tremendous color selections, nice action, slow and high speeds, and a very loud rattle in it. So we're excited about this bait. We think it's going to make a name for itself here in Lake Erie and places like Saginaw Bay and Green Bay and other big bodies of water in the Great Lakes system. So I catch up to him. There he is. Little bugger got athletic and decided to come at me. For a brief second there, I was a little concerned that maybe he got off, but no, he's still hanging on there. I haven't got an eyeball on him, but there he is.
Oh,
there he is.
Nice fish.
Good job. Thank you.
Good work, Dad.
All right, we'll get him out of the net here and show him off. There's the walleye, and there's what is known as the Precise Walleye Crank, PWC for short. Getting it done today on Lake Erie.
Got one going on just my flat line here. Okay. Oh, it feels like a pretty good fish, Dad. I'll show you how I got this flat line set up. It's pretty cool. It's just an easy flat line put back with a heavy snap weight. I send that bait all the way down to the bottom. I'm marking a few fish on the bottom, so I was kind of thinking there'd be a little bit bigger fish down there. And I don't hook this up to a planer board, it just kind of gets put right in the cradle holder.
There you go, Jakers.
There we go. Oh yeah, Dad, this is a good fish. This is really a nice fish, staying down good.
Well, that's a stud. That's a stud.
A little closer. Nice.
Got him.
Just can't get over how healthy these fish are. They are so thick. I hope that comes across on camera, just how fat these fish are, man. They are very healthy out here on Lake Erie. You know, we're fishing, we've got 3 guys in the boat today, so we got our planer boards out, they're covering our outward coverage, but then we have just this whole back and side of the boat that's wide open, so you utilize a flat line and get those bonus fish like this one. Okay, it's time to get that flat line set back again. I want to show you how I set this because it is literally anybody could catch a fish doing this. It's an easy style of fishing. Basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that crankbait and I'm going to send it back about 20 feet or so. There's really no set number to this. I just like to leave a little bit of separation between the crankbait and the actual weight that I'm hooking onto the line. And once I get it out there 20 feet, I'm going to go ahead and hook it up to the line. And what I mean hook up is I'm going to take a snap weight. You can see this is a makeshift deal. I'm looking for 4 ounces of lead. So I took two 2-ounce pieces of lead and I put it on an OR16 release from offshore. I go ahead and I put that on the line and I just kind of clip it on the line there. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to literally free spool this all the way until it hits the bottom. Now we're in 50 feet of water. That's why I'm looking for a little bit heavier weight, that 4-ounce weight. But I'm going to free spool it till it literally hits the bottom. Once it hits the bottom, I'm going to reel a couple, 2-3 times, put that rod in the rod holder, and that's it. Now as we're trolling forward, that weight's going to come up in the water column a little bit, but that crankbait's also diving. So you're going to be right down there near bottom. And some of these big fish just like to lay right down there near the bottom, and you're going to get a bonus fish. Now don't get me wrong, you're not going to catch a ton of fish on your flat lines every day, but you're going to get those extra 2, 3, 4 bonus fish throughout the day, and it's a really easy way to fish. So go ahead and put it in that cradle rod holder, and you're good to go.
Well, one of the things you'll notice immediately when you look at the PWC crankbait is it only has 2 treble hooks on it. Most baits this size have a third crankbait hook right in the middle, so they have a treble hook in the front, one in the middle, one in the back. We opted to go with just 2 hooks here, and the reason for that, I don't think that third hook helps you catch any more fish, but it sure does help you catch a lot of stuff you don't want to catch, like getting the bait out of the landing net, it gets caught in the carpet of your boat. It seems like that extra hook gets caught on everything except for what you want it to get caught on as a fish. So we compensated and went with 2 hooks, and then we made the hooks larger. So that's a number 2 hook as opposed to a number 4 that would typically be on here. So 2 number 2 hooks we think is better than 3 number 4 hooks.
Special considerations are provided by Precision Trolling Data and the Lake St. Clair Walleye Association. Special considerations provided by the Ultimate Sport Show Tour, Michigan's elite sport shows. Eagle Claw presents the 411 on fishing.
So what I've been doing is I'm setting my optimum TS downriggers up to go through cycle mode, which is a great option right now. It's the middle of the day, the bite's gotten a little bit slower, which is very common. And so what the cycle mode does is lifts the downrigger ball up whatever the desired depth. In this case I have it set 5 feet. So it brings the downrigger ball up 5 feet, a couple seconds, and then it drops it back down 5 feet. And we're going through and we're marking a lot of fish, but they're just simply not biting. Now since I've gone through this cycle mode, what you're doing is you're pulling that spoon away from these fish that are tracking it, that are trailing it behind the boat. And a lot of times you can kind of entice those fish to bite that might not necessarily bite. They might follow it for a while, get bored, and then swim away. But as soon as it starts to come up and starts to pull away from that fish thinks it's getting away, and you can get those reactionary bites from those fish. So the cycle mode works really well on the Optimum TS to catch these fish middle of the day when the bite starts to get a little bit tougher.
This was a deeper fish, Jake. You know, we've been starting to see a pattern developing here. Some higher fish have been going, but this was a deeper fish. He's not very big either. They're all fat though. I know. They're all fat. Fish is as big around as he is long. I mean, this fish needs to go on a diet, man. There's no doubt about it. You've been eating too many Lake Erie Emerald Shiners. Look at the belly on that thing. Look how thick he is. I think this fish and I have a lot in common. We're a little bit too wide in the midsection. Well, I got news for you. This one's going in the tank. Man, that's a pretty thing. I love it.
Yeah, this board just buried. You know, one of the things that I think is overlooked a lot when it comes to open water trolling is how important your electronics are. If you're not marking fish, you're not seeing fish, you're wasting a lot of time, especially in the fall because we're trolling extremely slow. When you troll slow, that means you're not covering a lot of water, and so it's important to drive around and look for these suspended fish. Now, one of the things that my electronics did in this case is I was actually looking at my graph and I saw some fish that were high up in the water column, and I noticed that I didn't really have anything up that high as far as lures up that high in the water column. So I reeled in a line, put a 45-foot lead, which is the highest lead that I would have, sent it out to the side, and it wasn't very long and it went back. So again, that's just paying attention to my electronics. I was staring at that screen, I saw that there was fish higher up in the water column, and I adjusted. That is what trolling is all about. So many times I hear guys tell me, well, I don't like to troll because it's boring. If you consider it boring, I'm telling you, you're doing it wrong. There's so many different pieces of that puzzle. That's what trolling is, putting all those pieces together to create a pattern at the end of the day. And it's an ever-changing pattern. If you're going to sit there all day in a chair, trolling can get pretty boring. But if you get up on your feet and you work your gear, you're going to catch a lot more fish, and you're going to find out that there's a lot of pieces of this puzzle. A little bit better grade of fish here, Dad. Looks like a good fish.
All right. That is a good fish. Keep them coming just like you got there, Jakers, and we'll see what we can do here.
Slow and steady, just like this. Keep them coming.
Perfect.
Nice.
I don't get no better than that. Man, that's a nice fish. Woo! You got a dandy there, son.
That is a really, really good Lake Erie walleye. You know, another thing I was talking about putting a pattern together. For me, when it comes to crankbait trolling, I really look at all the small details of putting that pattern together. And one of the things I look at is how a fish is biting that crankbait. If the fish is coming to the back of the boat and they're hooked on that back hook and they look like they're barely hooked, you know, it's good, we're still catching fish, but there's something we're missing. Maybe it's the color, maybe it's the speed, maybe it's the action of the crankbait. But when you start seeing fish come to the back of the boat and they're hooked like that right there, literally on that front hook, that fish T-boned that bait. I fooled that fish 100%, and that's what I'm looking for. So there's a lot of those small details that you can really put together to have a better day. Maybe you're barely catching those fish and they're coming off at the back of the boat. You change out colors, you change out crankbaits, you change your speed, something a little bit different, and all of a sudden these fish start T-boning it like this one did right here, and those fish are not coming undone.
If you're curious how deep the Precise Walleye Crank dives, all you have to have is the Precision Trolling app, and it'll tell you all the information you need. One of the things when we were designing it, we wanted the bait to be a little deeper than the average crankbait. So in this particular instance, this bait will get you down 25 feet with just 100 feet of line out. That's pretty substantial when you think about that. Most baits 100 foot back are going to be more in that 18 to 20 foot range. So it's a steep, deep diver. And if you want to know all of the dive curves on it, all you have to do is go to precisiontrollingdata.com, and you can get the app on either your Android phone or you can get it on an iPhone, and you'll have all the trolling information you ever need for crankbait fishing.
Special considerations provided by Bill Lewis Lures. Special considerations are provided by Procure, ruthlessly effective bait scents.
One of the things I think would be interesting to talk about is how crankbaits are designed and how they come into the industry. They don't just happen. There's a process. This particular lure has been in development now for about 2 years. So the reason it takes so long is because crankbaits these days are made on a 3D printer machine. And so they can make pretty much anything out of this plastic that's used in the 3D printers, but you have to make multiple changes to it until you get it where you want it. So we knew the first version of this was going to be a minnow shape. It was going to have a pretty good sized lip so it would dive deep. But the problem is when you get the first prototypes, they're just out of a white plastic. They don't really have any good color on them, and you can't do things to them to put the cool colors on them. Like, for example, we all like chromes, and chromes are done through a process called vacuum metallizing. And vacuum metallizing will actually break the prototype plastic. Take that off there. See if he's still buttoned up. Come on, baby. Yeah, he's still there. And so the very first few baits we have, and we'll show you some of them, they're rugged. They're not very pretty. We did some interesting things to try to add some color to them, just to try to make them more fish appealing. But you can't get a finished version initially. It takes a long time, several variations, several versions, several years to get to the point where you finally have a finished bait. And that's why we're so excited, because these are finished baits. These are the first time we've had an opportunity to fish with production grade baits with production colors. So we're excited to see them catching fish here on Lake Erie.
Nice fish, Dad.
There we go. There you go.
Good fish.
Yeah, we'll take that rascal. Like I said, that lead length is starting to get hot. So we're starting to figure out a little bit of a pattern here. Oops, bait came out, but take that little guy and throw him in the live well quick, and then we'll talk about that bait quickly. These are production grade colors, so these baits are gorgeous. They look beautiful, and that's making a huge difference for us in terms of our catch rate. So it's really, really nice to see this project finally coming to fruition.
You know, if you've watched Fishing 411 in the past, you've seen us use a product called Procure. It's a fishing scent made with real bait fish, and it's something that we use a lot. But one of the things is when I'm fishing in the fall and it's cold water, I am a huge advocate of scent. The reason for that is we're fishing slow. We're trolling relatively slow. These these fish have a long time to be able to look at it. In the summertime, scent works, don't get me wrong, but when I'm trolling super fast, it's more of a reactionary type bite. In this situation, it's not the case. We're trolling very slow. These fish will come up and they look at that crankbait. Now at the end of the day, we're fishing a piece of plastic, which is very fake, trying to imitate a minnow. It might look good, but that little bit of scent, by adding the Procure to it in this cold water, really seems to make the difference on a tough bite. So when you're fishing in the fall or you're fishing in the spring, anytime that water is really cold, you definitely want to have some Procure on the boat. And in this case, I'm using the gizzard shad formula. Why? Because we're fishing Lake Erie, and these fish are literally gorging themselves this time of year on gizzard shad. So I'm matching the hatch. These fish are going to eat the gizzard shad. We'll add the gizzard shad scent to the crankbait and put a pile of fish in the boat.
Well, Lake Erie, Mother Erie has been good to us today. It's been a lot of fun. I could, if I had a wish, I would wish for it to be a little flatter. This rough weather is not always all that fun, but it's tolerable. And we're dealing with, you get into late fall, you're going to have days like this where it's going to be rough. But you take the good with the bad. The good news is the fish are biting. The bad news is it's rough as hell out here today. That's the nature of the beast.
Let me sneak in there, Dad, and I'll pop that board off for you.
I do appreciate that.
And there you go. Keep him coming.
I'll bring him right up this edge here for you, young man.
Nice.
Look at that.
Oh, that's a net. Oh, that's a good fish, Dad.
Jeez, he is. That, my friends, is a beautiful walleye. Hey, my name is Mark Romanack. You've been watching Fishing 401. Thanks a lot for checking out our new crankbait, the Precise Walleye Crankbait from Bill Lewis. If you get a chance, check these baits out, put them on Lake Erie or your favorite fishery, and see if they don't catch you some walleyes just like this.
Closed captioning is provided by Lakeside Motorsports, Michigan's premier marine and power sports company. Fishing 411 is brought to you by Offshore Tackle, Lowrance Electronics, Starcraft Marine, Yamaha Outboards, Yakima Bait Company, Niagara Falls, USA, Smooth Moves, Bill Lewis Lures, and Jay's Sporting Goods.
They're so, oh, it's a white bass.
It's a giant white bass.
Big white bass.
Look at that. That's a master angler white bass.
Definitely not what we're looking for.
No, but boy, that's a nice white
master
bass.
angler white bass.